At the very simplest level, economic transactions to be successful need a backup of institutions that will protect property rights, enforce contracts, and provide all kinds of collective action, both physical public goods and organizations. In the most successful cases, the government will provide a number of these institutions through legislation, law enforcement, etc. But one of the things that I have most been concerned with is that in many countries where the government is not doing its job, some alternative social institutions arise to provide the same kind of services, maybe not with 100% efficiency, but with some success. So in many less developed countries, the horror story was that in India, the commercial courts are so backlogged that it can take up to 300 years for a case to be heard. So businessmen dealing with each other will simply not rely on the courts to enforce their contracts if a dispute arises. They will take other measures. They do business through repeated relationships and social networks. If you want to do business with somebody and you're not sure whether they're honest, you will not simply write a contract and rely on going to the court if things go wrong. You will ask ahead of time among your friends, who else has dealt with this person? How did that work out? And it's that kind of information and that kind of reputation-based transactions that take the place of court cases or written contracts. And these will work better where the group is stable. They'll work better where the group is small. But that then raises other problems, namely if the group is very small, then that raises the danger that there will not be enough competition. A monopoly might arise, or the usual kind of problems that arise when there's only a small number of firms will have to be dealt with. And that's the kind of thing that I'm most recently looking at.
What can we learn from your research?
A kind of thing that's kind of useful lesson is very often advisors from Western countries or the international organizations like the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund will go and advise people in less developed countries on how to improve their institutions. And those countries, for the kinds of reasons I explained, already have non-governmental social institutions of governance, networks, norms, maybe private courts, etc. Both theoretical analysis and empirical findings show that it's usually a mistake to impose top-down Western-style institutions in those countries because they don't interact well with what's already on the ground. You need to think harder and devise new institutions that mix well with the existing social ones. This is often called the transplant problem. You cannot transplant Western institutions in other countries and hope them to start functioning the way they currently function in the West, where they've had 100 years or more of experience and skill. That's one of the findings that's of some practical relevance.